Mahalia Collection, Crazy Daisies, The Club G100, Self-Search, Weller Dazzles, Belledale Artistry, Imfonifier.
It's another beautiful Sunday evening, and you're welcome to tonight's episode of the Natalie Show. I am really looking forward to my conversation with my guest tonight, who has been on so many platforms. I mean, he certainly is not new to TV. His background as a relationship consultant and family advocate means that he's often featured on varied networks to share his expertise and knowledge. But tonight he's doing something he's never done. He is putting the spotlight on himself. Kelly Daniels sits with me to share his life and his journey so far. Kelly, you're welcome to the Natalie.
Thank you very much, Natalie. How are you doing?
I'm very well. How are you, Kelly?
I am awesome and handsome.
You always use handsome.
Yes, I am.
Is it the physical one or emotional?
Oh, either way,
either way, yeah, you're handsome.
Right.
Now, Kelly, my first question to you is usually my first question on the show, and that's, what's the state of your life right now?
I'm at a place of peace. I'm at a place of peace. I'm at a place of understanding the beauty of peace and attempting to share it with all and sundry who care to receive it. And this reflects in every aspect of my life, whether career or private life or family life. I just want to show and give for free the peace that I have, where peace might mean having mastery of my history, understanding my present life, and trusting for the positivity of my future. You see, when you have these three things in place and you understand that it's a process, you are at peace with the metamorphosis. You see, so yeah, it's peace for me. Peace
is where you're at right now.
Right. Peace is not quietness. It's a state of mind that gives you balance, or if you like, stability, regardless of the middle of the storm you might be. Right. So peace.
Peace is important to you at this stage.
Yeah. And I wouldn't trade it for anything.
So Kelly, first of all, take me many years back and tell me who Kelly Daniels is.
Oh, okay. So Kelly Daniels is a person who, maybe I should take you to my background a little bit.
Yeah.
So I was born of, I fondly say, born of two fornicators who decided to have a good time with themselves, and I evolved as a result of that. And from there I metamorphosed into what I am right now. Yeah, it's what it is. It's what they did, and it's how I came. And so yeah, I grew up from there into who I am, with every other facet of my life that had to do with one challenge or the other. Of course, everyone's life has challenges, but everyone is peculiar to his own challenge. And so yeah.
You say you were born of two fornicators.
Yes, they were. They were not married, and that's why I said, I mean, people who have sex and who are not married are fornicators, or, you know, isn't that what it is?
Tell me about your parents, your mother, your father. Tell me about them.
Well, my father, to start with, I never really knew him because I just met him 4 times in all of his life until he passed. And for those 4 times, I kept initiating the meetings, and I really never had that bond even for those 4 occasions. But then, literally, that's basically all I might have to say.
What sort of a person was he, from what you gathered from the 4 meetings?
He was a person who, well, I met him at the latter part of his life. So yeah, I think he was a person who was given into giving the best of the rest of his life to kingdom service, serving God in
he used the rest of his life to serve God.
Yeah. He was a very faithful, dutiful leader in church that I can say I saw so much of, I heard so much of, although I didn't have direct contact with him all that time, but you would see that he's been very, very sold out to that. Right.
What would you describe him? Did you like him?
I like the fact that I could identify with my paternity, because before then I didn't know who my dad was, and I kept asking my mother during my younger age who my father was.
How do you feel about him as a man?
Well, let me start from how I felt before now.
Okay, yeah.
So growing up as a young child, I sort of caught wind that I was either neglected or abandoned. I don't know which word to use, but literally he was never there, and it sort of built a certain is hatred the right word now, but certain dislike. Yeah, hatred is appropriate.
You hated.
And I remember I used to save money to buy a gun to kill my dad. I didn't know how much a gun was. I never held one. I never physically saw one.
At what age did you feel these emotions of wanting to kill him?
I saw too many movies, and I saw how people reacted to
but that was the level
like
of anger you had towards him.
I was so pissed with the fact that I didn't grow up with a father, or I didn't have a father around me. More so, he's alive, he's not dead, and he's not around me, and they're not saying anything nice about him. So I felt like I was brought to the world to just suffer, for all the uncertain reasons. And so I was saving money at that time as a very young boy of less than, before I was a teenager. But I spent the money anyway. I eventually didn't buy the gun. I didn't even know where to buy one anyway. I was just in my head, just saving for the day I eventually meet him and pull the trigger on him. But that was just friction influenced, because I was watching a lot of movies then, basically. So that's it.
Did it make you feel unwanted at a young age?
A lot. I mean, I faced rejection from my mother's womb. I mean, some people face rejection in the course of their lives, but my rejection started from the womb because no one wanted me. My dad didn't see me coming, my mom didn't see me coming, and I just showed up. And in my mother's lineage at that time, no one had a child outside wedlock. So my mother sort of came to break that record, sort of. And they're like, what? You did this? And so my mother, the rejection started with my mother.
Well, how do you feel the rejection from her end? Because I understand how you felt it from your father's end. How about your mother?
My mom wanted to have a better life. Of course, she eventually did, which I believe she's now proud of. But at the time my mother came, by the time I came, my mother was not seeing me coming. And so the friction of a young, very, very, very young lady or girl raising a child, I mean, it's like a child raising a child.
She was about how old?
She was very, very, very young. So young that she wouldn't want to have a pregnancy at that time. And so she had the mixed feelings of, okay, how do I go to school? How do I pay bills? So what happened was, I was fortunate, if I want to use that word, to be tossed from one relative to the other while she was going to school. So I would stay with one relative, and when the relative was traveling abroad, they transfer me to the next.
To another?
So I was literally a diasporan child who just happened to always be around diasporans at that time, because people were, traveling, and then I was, being, it's more like, okay, like a baton, so I'm leaving,
just
so you hand over.
Yeah.
So I really never had a family life with my nuclear family, talking about my mom and dad in place, because as much as my mother wanted to be there, she had to go to school. So yeah.
With the times that your mom was around, what was your relationship with her like?
Oh, it was all sweet to a maximum level, but at some point I could see, even as young as I was, that she was going through pain raising me, and that kind of affected how I related with her at some point, which she doesn't know till today.
How?
Because at some point I could tell that she's not happy, And so I would withhold a lot of things I would have wanted to say or do because I wasn't sure how it's going to come across to her. You know, there's always an intimate bond between mother and son. So she didn't tell me much, but I could know much without she saying a word. Yes, so I could tell she wished for certain things she didn't get at that time.
Were your grandparents alive? Her parents?
Yeah, they were. I remember that. I know my grandmother. I have a very, very
good relationship.
I mean, memory about my grandmother. She's still not late though.
Okay.
Yes. So,
you know, because a lot of times when a child is born out of wedlock, the grandparents or the parents of the child's parents,
my grandmother contributed largely. At some point, my grandmother was one of the people who I was tossed to.
Okay. What were some of the most difficult experiences as a child that you remember?
Rejection from family members. I mean, somebody once called me a bastard, and I didn't know the word, but everybody else laughed when the person said it, and I wanted to know why would he. What's that word? And I told my mom, when my mom knew who I was talking about, it went escalated. If I had known it was going to be escalated that much, I would have taken it in. However, that didn't go down well. Furthermore, I think my struggles of trying to make it in life to be relevant was my major goal. Every other person was doing well but me, because they had
a two-parent household,
some kind of stability, leverage, which I didn't have. But then I wasn't poor either. I don't come from a poor family. No. To God be the glory. I come from a very, very, very comfortable family at that. Very, very comfortable till now. But I wanted an identity for myself. I wanted to be known for something. I was finding myself. I was trying to find out what I can do for myself, not what someone did for me. My mother is literate, as you know, so it's not like my mother was a peasant or something. So I literally had the basics all settled, but I wanted my identity. So I went as far as going with my colleagues to do all manner of things to earn a living. At that time, not because we needed a living per se,
you weren't doing some of these things for money. Why were you doing them?
I was doing it for money because I wanted to earn my own money.
Your own money? Yes. At what stage of your life?
Say as a teenager, really. All these things happen as a teenager. What
were some of the things
you did? Selling fish, all kinds of fish, from smoked fish, dry fish, fresh fish, what kind of fish in whatever state it was. I remember hawking black soap, you know, the one you mold. I have sold sugarcane. You go to the farmer, you buy it from the farmer, you come to the street and you sell it in front of your house. You know, I've sold water, not pure water, I mean ice water. Those days when they would,
ice water.
So not sachet, the one they tie in, you know, and then of course the freezer is there. You put it in the freezer, and then by the time your parents go out, that's when you come out and go to the market to hawk, to sell. I was just trying to find myself. This was influenced by the relatives around me or the neighbors around me whose lives were like that. But I didn't have an identity. But nobody, the people I was living with at that time, didn't give me an identity either. So I felt more welcomed with the people who had a lower life than I did. So I associated with them, and their life became my life.
What made you feel more comfortable with those people?
Fellowship, friendliness. I mean, the people raising me wouldn't talk to me. They would isolate me to say, oh, that's Teresa's son, and you know, literally, they didn't say it, but I felt sidelined. I remember living with a couple, a family who was very, very related to me, and because I coughed once or so or twice, they gave me a cup to say, because you're coughing, I'm going to give you this cup to always use. Until I left that house, that was my cup. It was peach, like the color right there, a plastic cup, so that I don't infect the rest of the family. But I could understand that for a season. But
these were your uncles, aunties?
Supposedly.
Yeah.
Until I left, I kept using that particular cup. Yes. It was that bad. And so rejection had always been something I was used to. So when I got the welcoming or the warmth from people out there, I was never a home child. I was just waiting for my mother to leave, or whoever I was living with to leave for work, and then I shoot out with my neighbors. I think I began to be serious in my life at about 17. But you see, from 13 to 16, I think that was the most adventurous time of my life, to say the least.
You said that you made a number of mistakes.
Right.
What were some of these mistakes you made?
The real mistakes I made in life were when I was much older. I thought they were positive, decisive mistakes, at things I needed to do, but they turned out to be mistakes.
What were some of those?
I would mention a point where I left home. I left home at 16 to 17. That time, my mother just married my stepdad.
Okay.
And my stepdad wanted to raise me in a certain way that he thought would be good for me, for my future. Because of the sentiments my mother had with me, she thought, well, now this is what I know now, grown up, she thought he was too hard on me. So she didn't, I guess they had issues consistently on how he wanted to raise me.
How did he want to raise you?
Very tough, very militant, very, now you might want to say barbaric, but to the end that I would be a very disciplined, cultured, proper man. But it was too hard for me because I wasn't used to that upbringing up until he met me and my mom at 13, 14. And you see, like I said, from 13 was when I began to really go down the drain. So from 13 to 16 were my most critical, mischievous periods. So
tell me some more about those. He wanted to raise you as in a stern way, as a real man. Right. Do you value it anymore now?
I kind of value it now, but I'm grateful for who I am eventually, regardless.
So what were some of those mischievous things that you did?
To him, each time I went out and came back late, I was with friends, but I was in church. I was always doing music, being in the choir, and doing every other thing every church person would do. But he didn't believe you. But they never believed me. So it hardened me to now begin to do the things he was assuming I was doing.
That makes a lot of sense.
So my friends are now having girlfriends in church. I take my mind from the focus of church and then begin to, my dad said, I've been, okay, let me see what that lifestyle is like. And so at that time, I was coaching them on how to talk to a woman.
You were coaching these young men
and how to talk to the other young ladies in our midst. And I remember they kept saying I'm a soft talker, like a smooth talker. So they would always like for me to give them a pour on how to talk to the women. So I would write letters, I would do rehearsals with them to say this is what you should say to a woman. So
that's what you were teaching in church?
Oh, by God's grace. By the grace of God.
You were teaching men how to be smooth talkers.
At some point, I was teaching them how to get a lady, and our target was our pastor's daughter. So that was a trophy. If you get this one, oh God, I mean, you are it. Nobody ever did until they met me.
Okay, and when
until they called me into the meeting and said, "Guy, we want to get this for Elizabeth." Well, I just went there, just said the name.
Oh, that's very good.
But it's okay. So, I mean, Elizabeth is married now and very and fulfilled. Yeah. We want to get Elizabeth. We don't know how. And she's literally the prettiest. So like, okay, how do we go about it?
Were you a womanizer?
I had tendencies of being one. Of course, I explored a little.
Tell me about that.
Well, there's nothing about women that I don't know regarding that. I have had my fair share of testing the waters to see what's in here and what's in there and why is this different from that and all. I explored to the point where I'm like, if this is all that there is, there's nothing in it.
Okay.
And then I began to withdraw, but then I wasn't in the game, but I was educating them on how to get what they wanted.
You weren't in the game.
It was a game then. It was a game. It wasn't really for the sex. It was for the adventure of going for someone and identifying with someone that you see. I have a girl,
particularly the pastor's daughter.
Particularly, it wasn't. We didn't know much about sex then, but boyfriend, girlfriend, and what did we call boyfriend, girlfriend? Let's hold hands and walk past the presence of the majority, and so they know we're an item. But we were never allowed to, we didn't even know each other's houses. Every mischief I had was in church.
And that's an interesting thing.
Yeah, at the back of the cars during all nights. Yeah. We did a lot of things at the back of our cars during all nights.
Things you did at the back of the cars during all nights.
We made sure. So you make sure when your dad wants to lock the car when you get down from the when you're light, you make sure your side is
open. It's still up.
It's up. So even when he's done the central, in fact, what central? We didn't have a central. Yeah. Just make sure that side is open, and just make sure you're standing by the car to ensure he's walked away.
And then what happens
when he walks away, you're sure that the car is open, the back of the car is open. So when it's when the all night is getting intense, you call whoever needs to and say,
the girl,
my car is open. No, another guy might want to use my car too. So yeah.
So you make it available for your
exactly
friends.
For those who don't have cars, my car is available, and when I want, sounds
like a bad one.
yeah. So
but how did you feel that because you mentioned that your stepfather, felt like you were lying all the time. You said you were going to church, genuinely.
That broke me.
You were becoming what he didn't want you to become.
Yes, and they didn't know, maybe till he watches it now. He didn't know what I was doing.
Why were you comfortable with becoming what he didn't want you to become?
You see,
when you knew it may not have been the right thing.
A child too, that child becomes a man too early, based on the kind of negativity you put in the child's mind. So I was beginning to say, if you keep insisting that I'm doing these things, there must be something about these things you are suggesting I'm doing that I don't know about, that I sure want to know about.
That must be worth exploring, right?
That must be worth exploring. So, and those things he kept saying I was doing were the things other people were doing, and people were hailing them to be the big boys. So I felt like I wasn't a big boy enough. I felt like I had to change from being a church boy to being a big boy, though I was in the church. Yeah. So all those things I had to begin to incorporate into my life to really do those things we're doing. From sneaking out, in fact, from time to time, we'll sneak out of church to another neighboring church to do our things and come back before the church is over. We are back, and in fact, we are the place where our parents kept us, and we are
you
praying. You
mastered the art of being a
yeah. But they'll be shocked to watch this.
Because they never knew.
They never knew. At a point, I had my mom talking about me to someone to say, I'm very, very sure my son is a virgin.
Please tell me at what age this was, around what age?
I don't know, 16,
19, and you laughed.
Because at that time, I had just had it maybe a month or two.
Oh my God!
I'm like, oh, sorry, I feel wrong. but I kept it to myself. But that was the peak of all of the mess.
Yeah.
I was 19, and the first person I ever made out with was 27.
From the church?
Yes. No, this was in church, but she was equally a church girl.
Okay.
And shockingly, she wanted me. Like, whoa. The norm is to help people get these
and
ladies.
Now you're getting it.
Now the ladies are coming. Okay, this is new. So at first I was quite confused to say, what's going on here? I didn't know how to handle this.
Did you accept? Were you with her? Did you date her?
Yeah. Well, we didn't even start as dating. We started as friends, and she began to touch me. And I became comfortable about the touches, and then we just flowed, just more like we entered into the whole thing without an introduction, and then we got the best out of it based on what we thought was good for us at that time. Yeah.
Wow. Kelly, I'm going to hold you there.
Right.
Okay. And we'll talk right after this break a lot more about this mischievous bad boy, but how that all shaped you into who
all
you
right,
are
sure.
Stay with us here on the Natalie Ford Show. Welcome back to the Natalie Ford Show, and I've been in conversation with Kelly Daniels. Kelly, you were telling me about your role, your participation in church, and how that sort of switched up when you started doing a few mischievous things even within within the church. How did you find yourself entering this space today of family advocacy, relationship counseling and coaching, looking at the past that you had in this area?
Thank you. Something very, very fundamental happened to me at some point when I began to enjoy the graces of my giftings. I began to make some understanding into who I was, and ministry began to be birthed in me. And at that point, I began to make a lot of waves. I began to get the invitations from different churches, organizations to come minister to them. At some point, I began to mature. I mean, take away those mischievous naughtiness and all that. Because in all of that, the seed of righteousness was sown in me, regardless of all of those things I was doing. I was just doing those things because every other person was doing it, and my parents were not believing me. There was a time I walked from one place to another point, from my home to my school, and my dad said, "You didn't do it."
Yeah, you did.
These are the things that
you didn't, the lack of trust.
Me. Yeah. And so I was like, "You don't trust me? Why? What reason do you have? It's not like you found out I lied at some point, and anyway." But then I grew with the consciousness of my relationship with God at that time. And a lot of things began to evolve. I didn't know I was into ministry until I got to find out it was called ministry or serving God. I just wanted to show the best of me out and preaching the word and all of that. And I began to get ministration appointments with different churches. And that's where I began to grow into this man. And at some point, I began to have all manner of hits from different people, elders, same ages, leaders, to say, "You need to get married." I wasn't feeling I should.
You were getting pressure to get married at a stage.
Yeah. I was getting too much pressure to say, "Kelly, you need to get married." At the stage in which you're going, you need to get married. At the pace in which you're going, you need to get married.
Were they saying that based on the fact that you're in the church?
I was becoming a fast accomplishing young clergy person, and they needed me to crescendo into certain portfolios, and they thought that marriage would be what would help me qualify for those, or mature me, or stabilize me to form that kind of portfolio they wanted to give to me, or they thought I merited based on how much I was doing. I mean, I began to travel countries, ministering to people, talking about people. My first speech was at 20, almost 21, when I had students come together from different secondary schools, and I taught them at that time, and then I later began to teach their teachers, and talking about student-teacher relationship began to, so that's where my HR was birthed.
And then 21.
I began to, I was 21. I began to, maturity hit me early. At some point I began to ask questions. Why is this? In fact, why was I that mischievous? I began to ask myself questions, and the answer to those questions changed my life, and I answered those questions myself because I knew myself more than anybody else apparently did. So, long and short, I was asked to go marry. Not my parents though, because my parents knew, this guy, he's not qualified at all. But then again, to think that I'm not qualified and everybody else who accepts me says I'm qualified, I'm going to do it. Well, that was it. I went in, and when I made my choice, everybody who made sense to me at that time of my life said no.
You shouldn't
but
get
I
married.
just wanted to prove to the world I could do something with myself. Talking about being rejected, I just wanted to have something in my life to say, I did this one for me.
Yes.
Not for anybody else. And of course, that's marrying for all the wrong reasons.
Exactly.
And of course, it didn't work.
Yeah. Tell me a bit about the marriage.
So, I met, on one of those trips, I traveled to a particular country. And I met with my old friend there, and the person was saying, oh, Kelly, I have a friend who would be good for you, who I've known in the banking college. And we graduated from banking college, and we got to really grow together. I think she'll be good for you. I said, okay, because I know you enough.
Because you trust a friend enough.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because I know you enough. That's exactly what I said. Because I know you enough, I would accept whoever you bring in or recommending. So I didn't spend any time getting to know this person whatsoever. And I said, when is your birthday? This was 8th of May, my mother's birthday.
Okay.
And she said, she mentioned the date, and I said, that's when I'm going to marry you.
You hadn't gotten to know her at all?
No. And from 8th of May, which is my mother's birthday, to the time we got married was weeks.
About how?
Yeah.
Less than a month.
Yeah, about a month-ish.
So you met her and you settled with her in maximum a month's time.
Yes, because of the recommendation.
What did you know about her? What attraction did you have for her as a person?
I was dealing with the information I got from my very good female friend who was in a relationship at that time. Now I know better. So I loved this particular friend personally. I loved how we related. So I was just seeing her friend in her shoes. That was what made me settle for her.
What was the marriage like?
It was all, I was ready to be married. When I say ready to be married, ready to make it work. Because I never believed in anything separation or anything to that. No, I knew that marriage was for better, for worse, make it happen, however. That was, when I say I was prepared for marriage, that's all I knew. But I didn't know nothing more about it. So what happened was, she was from a Muslim background, but she was a Christian at the time I met her. Okay. But the friction of
her family,
both, yes, sort of. We had our own issues, but that was the genesis of the whole situation. And eventually, it fell. It fell out. We fell out because those influences were core to the marriage.
So it was mainly the religious influence. Right?
That was the beginning, and it had splashes over every other thing we did. Because if we were from the same kind of background, people would have influenced what we were doing in a better way to get us into a better future.
How long were you married for?
Not long at all, before the mistakes began to show up.
Now
the mistakes, thereabouts or more. The mistakes I made, I keep saying every time that I'm fully responsible for the mistakes I have made.
What were some of the mistakes you made?
Let me just mention one, which leads to every other mistake. Not marrying at the right time. Not who I married.
Okay.
There's a difference between who you married and when you married. Because who you marry could be good for you, but if the person is not equipped for the journey ahead, then the timing to get married would be wrong.
Yeah.
Which eventually makes your choice wrong.
Yeah.
So I don't put any blames on who I married. I put all the blames on how I chose to execute that exercise. I used my background to say that I would repair the rest of my life teaching every other person who cares to know how to make theirs in a better shape, basically. And so I bagged first degree, bagged second degree, and now I'm doing PhD in Christian counseling, same thing. So I just made up my mind to help others have what I never had. And that's what pushed me to begin to write.
Okay.
And before I knew it, I had written my first book, my second book, my third book, and now I have written 42 books. Actually,
42?
Yes, I have actually written 52, but 42 are out.
And these are all books on
love, relationship.
And what do you think that this relationship really taught you? I mean, you've mentioned the fact that you decided you want to be the most desirable bachelor, which I think is an interesting...
To myself.
To yourself.
Not necessarily attracting people. I mean to say that by the time I want to go into that again,
yes,
I would be really fit
and
to
ready.
Be someone who I'm proud of.
Yeah.
That's why, for me, not necessarily to get attention from anybody else, because that would be flirtatious and every other thing you don't want to attach to your future.
Exactly.
So I just said to myself, I'm going to be the very best version of myself before I ever say hi to a woman, because of the experiences I had. Yes.
So you sort of turned around that rejection.
Yes.
Right. It's not about what people have
myself, loving myself, growing, appreciating myself, understanding. That's why I talked about peace in the first place. Understanding where I'm coming from, where I, by necessity, I am in reality, and the projection of my future based on my current investment in myself, how the future would be, and I'm just at peace.
And you've come to that place of peace.
Yes, and that's where I am. So all of the things I achieved, which happened very, very fast, talking about my education, my books, how I got on TV. I mean, how did I get on TV? I was doing Facebook Live.
And that's what led you to TV. People
I kept teaching the things that came to my spirit to whoever would listen. I wrote my first book at that time called Queen Power.
Queen Power.
Queen Power, yeah. Educating women to say that there's a queen in you, that you need to get her. I mean, at some point I hated women. I was wondering why God impressed on my heart to talk about women, because of the rejection I had with my failed marriage. So basically, I was now beginning to teach women how to be the best of themselves.
Versions of themselves.
So from then, one book led to the other, and I was always on Facebook Live teaching. And then somebody called me from some TV station to say, "You've been talking about this on Facebook. Can you please come on interview?" And that's one led to another, and there's no TV station that has no platform of that. I mean, I can't say I've been to all, but the most in the country, yes, by the grace of God, I have covered.
What does your future look like in terms of marriage and in terms of relationships?
I'm very fulfilled how I am. I mean, I have a new life now. I've moved on, and a lot of things have happened. I'm a very fulfilled man right now. And so the future of my marital life, which I am happy to have, would be that every other person who doesn't know me should know me for me being a blessing to their own marital decisions, how to choose right, how to stay in it, and how to get the best out of it. Because now my life is literally the litmus test for them. So, I mean, there are no two same marriages, but then my anchor now is to work with my marital partner to ensure that every other person we can reach as much as possible have a better marital life. And that's why I'm on the crusade of all the books I'm writing, all the multiple conferences that I host, the serial invitations I get from all media houses and all of that, to empower people to get it right. Because I got it wrong once, and that should serve as a lesson for those who shouldn't even get it wrong at all.
Yeah. What would you say your purpose in life is?
My purpose in life is to make sure that I am a living example of what a perfect or God-oriented marital situation should look like. So I'm meant to teach it, equip people to grow with the understanding of love from God's perspective. And so if you get love from God's perspective, you get married from God's perspective, right? And that is basically my purpose, to ensure that people are empowered and people are focused on God's orientation, God's original plan for marriage, and then they grow. I don't have any dream bigger than that. Every other dream is to accomplish this, and that's why I have my movies. I now I'm into the movie industry.
Christian movies.
Movies, basically, as long as the message goes out. Christian movies, preferably, you would say. So after writing 42 books, I thought to say, what more can I do for my world? I have done everything I wanted to do, from music to preaching to advocacy. Now what do? I now began to think that I could change the messages in my books into movies. So every book I have written is gradually turned into a movie to further portray the message of family advocacy and relationship amendment, or relationship strategy and consulting, basically.
So, final question. What's your relationship with your family like now, today? What's your mom's view on you, having seen everything that you've become? What does she think about you today?
That's a very, very emotional one. My mother always thanks God I wasn't washed down. I wasn't aborted.
Yeah.
My mother always is wowed at what I've turned out to be. She wasn't so churchily spiritual to say my son is going to become a man of God or a public figure, or what in Ghana we call a celebrity, or all of that. I don't think I am, but she's happy about what I'm turning out to be. She's comfortable about my evolving pace and phases, and she just. Sometimes we talk and I remember the times when we used to sing together, and I remind her, do you remember this song, the words of this song? There's this particular song that says, I am planted by the riverside and watered by the Lord. His Holy Spirit lives in me. He's my comforter. I am planted, I am watered by the Lord. I could sing that song, we could sing that song like several times in a day, and then we resume the next day. These are the guiding, unconscious, though conscious principles that have helped me to make better choices as I've grown, and to make me the man that I've turned out to be. What emotions do you have towards your father, even though he's late? I love him.
You love him?
I love him, and I'm grateful to him for the things that he taught me that he didn't teach me. There are a lot of things inconsistently I'm not proud of, and so I put myself in check.
Are you hard on yourself?
Am I what?
Hard on yourself?
Most times, yes, because I'm on the edge to become a better version regardless, because of where I'm coming from. I want to present to myself, not to the world. It's about me and God.
Now. It's about you.
I want to present to myself and to God what the world thought would never could happen. I mean, they thought I would be this, that, and the other, and then I'm turning out to be the direct
opposite,
flashy, glossy opposite. They're like, how did it happen? Or for him, where did he pass? And then he's becoming this and that. And then this thing is about, when the people who were well brought up in a certain family, in a certain way, having all the things, and then they're comparing and contrasting and asking questions and sending them to me for counseling. I'm like, what is going on? I thought you guys knew the thing. Because as far as I'm concerned, at some point I thought I was a very, very late comer. Late comer in school, late comer in making it, late comer in being anything beautiful that you could appreciate about the growth of a human being. I feel that most of my mates had it first.
But you're happy with this version of you?
I'm content. I'm content. Like I said in the beginning, I have the peace that keeps driving me on, so that peace is fine.
Thank you so much, Kenny. We're not done though. We've got Fantastic next.
What's that?
It's a game. I'll tell you, don't worry. It's a game segment here on the Natalie Fort Show. Do stay with us. Welcome Welcome back to the Natalie Fort Show. I've been in conversation with Kelly Daniels, and it's now time for Fantastic. You're asking what it is.
Yeah, I want to know.
You want to? Well, certainly. I'm going to explain it to you. It's a very short, brief game segment here on the show. So tonight, the game I'm playing with you is a game of this or that. I'm just going to mention out a few things on this card before. Okay, trust me, it's very simple. It's just for fun. And you just tell me your preference. So there's no right or wrong to these responses. Very simple.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, very simple, trust me. Shall we?
Yeah.
Okay. A holiday at Ibri Mountains or Victoria Island, Nigeria?
I've been to both severally, so I don't know what to choose.
Pick one.
Every mountains is serene. Yeah. I live around there, so I like where I live.
So every mountain?
Right,
okay, fair. Nigerian Super Eagles or the Black Stars of Ghana?
They're both fantastic, man. My bias is certainly to the Black Stars because, you know, a lot of emotions are attached to it. Yeah.
Very well.
But both would be fine.
Okay, you're supposed to pick
if
one.
If I had to do both.
If you had to do both. But if you had to do one, the Black Stars. Nigerian jollof or Ghana jollof?
Oh, that's another both.
I know, right? This unending
but I ate the Ghana jollof most. I mean, so when last did I have Nigerian jollof? So I'll go with Ghana jollof.
Ghana jollof.
But equal sentiments, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. Would you rather listen to an entire Sarkodie album or an entire Burna Boy album?
You know what time it is.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, second to last, lonely with money or surrounded by family?
Oh, family, come on.
Family?
Family is everything, man. Money will come. Let's have family first. Let's. Family is my thing.
Family?
Yeah.
Final question. Single or married?
Married to Jesus.
Married to Jesus.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
married
it.
to Jesus. That's it.
And happy at that.
And happy at that.
Yes.
That sounds like single, but I get you. Married to Jesus.
Is it your single? It's your marriage missing.
Okay, fine. Married to Jesus.
Right.
All right? Very simple game. Right? That's it. Done. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
For being on the show.
Right.
It's been a great pleasure speaking with you.
And thanks for squeezing out all those things from me. I didn't see them coming.
Yeah.
But hey, you're good at what you do, so yeah, well done.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing them. Thank you for trusting enough to share them. The story is amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stay with us here on the Natalie Fort Show. We've got Star Woman and Proud of My Hustle shortly. You're watching the Natalie Fort Show, and it's now time for the Star Woman segment, where we celebrate women in Ghana and across the world who are doing remarkable things. Star Woman is made possible through the support of Absa Bank Ghana. Now, get Absa Emerge. It's a solution that helps you balance it all. Absa Emerge is a business banking solution that's designed for women entrepreneurs, and it goes beyond banking. Absa Emerge gives you access to expert business advice, exclusive networking opportunities, lower interest rates on loans, and COT-free banking. It includes exciting lifestyle benefits that help you balance your busy life. So, sign on to Absa Emerge today. That's Africanicity, that's Absa. Visit absa.com.gh or call our team on 030-397-9535. Remember that terms and conditions do apply. Next is the Star Woman.
I really don't have a favorite hour of day because I feel very active in the morning when I write and do some things, but at night when I can be rested a little bit, wanting to be lazy, it's also favorite. But when I meet with people, with friends, family during the day, fantastic. Then all the hours are my favorite hours of day. I can describe it with the word challenging. It was a big challenge to be the first female in different positions like Minister of Education, like Vice President and President. And I feel a lot of responsibility because being the first woman, the first female, I feel all this heavy responsibility on my shoulders. It was a heavy situation that I lived during those days. Remember that it was in 1997. And at that time, most of the people in my country, but I think in most of the countries, they don't feel that a woman was in the capability to lead a country. Then I suffered a coup d'etat given by the parliament that was supposed to respect the law and also the army. And it was really, really awful. Even nowadays, I think that in many countries, it's not easy for a woman to dedicate to the political affairs. And I think it's also about self-esteem and the comprehension that how important would be to have more and more women in leading position on the states, on the academy, on the corporations, in business, in sports. I think the world could be much better with women, more women leading countries. It is a nice question that I appreciate a lot. What do I say to myself when I was 25? Maybe to dream more. Yeah, I always had been a dreamer, but maybe more. And also maybe only not to be so confident in some people. That's the advice that I would give to myself, especially when I was in politics. Well, I love vintage things. When I go around cities in different places of the world, I used to go and bargain a lot. But of course, I love when it's about clothes, for example, new designs. Well, I'm a lot eclectic, vintage and new.
Incredible story there on our Star Woman segment. Special thank you to Absa Bank Ghana and the Club G100 for making that possible. You're watching the Natalie Fort Show. Now, every single day there are millions of Ghanaians who go out there and hustle to earn a living. We seek to celebrate you. That's next on Proud of My Hustle.
aka lelele obajo mi to nsuo na haso nsuo na beto no enye se mi feri me nya hwe nsuo mi maame ene wo ha ene okoye nti okoye no ena me si o ma me betena se na menton nti me to asoma no nti sa na sisi amabe se o yes sisi ade yo ton enya ne ye pe kakra ya me pe bia menya friend me Laroba Awuni aka Lelele. I am proud of my hustle.
You've been watching the Natalie Fort Show, and I hope you've loved my conversation with Kelly Daniels as he sat with me to share his life and his journey all these years. I'm sure you were inspired by that, as I was. A special thank you to the sponsors who make this show possible: to MTN, Absa Bank Ghana, Doctor's Furniture, the Club G100, Self-Search, Move and Pick Ambassador Hotel, and supported by Mahalia Collection, Crazy Daisies, Wella Dazzles, Beldel Artistry, and Imfunifie. Thank you so much for watching here at the Natalie Fort Show, where we bring you conversations that matter. Have a wonderful evening.